Happy Friday. I'm so happy to have all you guys here with me tonight. I have missed doing these for the past couple of weeks. As many of you guys know, my family was on a staycation, so I was kind of trying to scale back a little bit, but I'm glad to be back on here with all of you. And I have 3 guests joining me tonight. I have Apartment Prepper, Sassy Gal Prepping, and SON Preppin. So we are going to be discussing what surviving a major SHTF situation will look like and those moral issues surrounding that scenario. And I'm going to be opening this up for some Q&A at the end. So when I do, go ahead and put those in all caps for me so I can see them. So I'm going to take a brief moment to just greet some of you guys and make sure you guys can hear me okay. If somebody could give me a 5x5 in the chat, I would greatly appreciate it. So I'm not sitting here talking to myself. I hope I'm not. Anyway, I know my guests can hear me at a minimum. So
yeah.
Can you guys hear me okay? Thank you, Karen. I appreciate it. So I'm just going to go through here and kind of greet some of you guys. So I see that we have Uncle Al in the chat. Good to see you. Hi there, Nate. Good to see you. Vancity, thank you so much for being here tonight and helping mod. Hi, Copycat. Karen, awesome to see you. Hi, Arc Wildman Survival. Who else am I missing? Hi there, Rita. Good to see you. Linda K, good to see you as well. Debbie, hi there. Hello, Mary Misfit. See, Debbie Goebel is here. Scott Hummer. And I think, was Kill It and Grill It in here as well? Did I miss him? Stuart's Prepping is here. Hi there.
There's Kill It and Grill It here.
Awesome. I think I got everybody. So with that, I just want to say a big thank you to my guests, my friends, for joining us tonight. And I'm going to give each of you guys an opportunity to introduce yourselves. So Apartment Prepper, would you please go ahead and start?
I guess my name begins with A, so I go first.
Yes. You're in the hot seat.
Alphabetical order. I am Apartment Prepper. Yes, I live in an apartment and I prep. That's basically what I do. But I take care of a special needs brother and basically just try to encourage other people into being more prepared. I'm not an expert on anything. I'll just tell you what I know, what I've learned, what I'm learning. And again, just try to encourage anyone I can. That's
awesome.
What the channel's about.
That's awesome. Sassy Gal, would you go ahead and briefly introduce your channel to everyone?
Yes, I'm Sassy Gal and I prep. Kind of following on what Apartment Prepper was doing there.
She was a sassy gal.
I'm sassy. Y'all don't make me sassy now. Okay. So let's see. I'm trying to sound something different. I'm a family of 5. I have been kind of prepping before I even really called it prepping. It was just a lifestyle for us. We prepare ourselves for everything in life. And it's just a way of living for us. I started my channel in September and here we are now. I've met some lovely people on YouTube. I love this community and I've met some really nice people that are here in the audience and here on the panel. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. SON Preppin, would you go ahead and do the same, please?
Yes, my name is, my thing is SON Preppin. I live in rural Alabama. Grew up on a farm, still live on the farm with my dad. He's in his 70s now. So we have adventures with dad now. He's kind of going a little nuts sometimes. But like Sassy Gal was saying, grew up this way, just a lifestyle, cutting wood in the summertime to burn it in the winter, canning things in the summertime to eat it in the winter. So that's just what we're used to here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. I did notice in the chat, I just wanted to mention this real quick, guys. It looks like Cold War Prepper was saying that his wife is going to be taking him to the hospital very soon. So if we could all just go ahead and be praying for him. I know that they both have COVID right now. So that is a big concern. So if you guys don't mind adding him to your prayers, we need to be doing that. So that would be greatly appreciated. So my motivation for kind of having this live stream is for all of us to start getting an idea of what kind of situations we would be presented with in a major SHTF. So that if we haven't started kind of preparing for the worst of the worst because we don't think it will ever happen, or we don't want to visualize something like that happening, we really have an opportunity to discuss it as a group and start coming up with some solutions. So these are things that I think we need to be taking seriously and really dig into, because there's a big part of me that sees potential for some really serious dark days ahead. And I know there are a lot of Christians that watch my channel, and we in particular need to understand that times are going to be challenging. And yes, God will be there to help us through, but we have to do our part. And so I'm not going to go into and touch on the rapture and pre-trib and mid-trib and post-trib talk, because everyone has their beliefs on that issue. And all that does sometimes is just sow more division, which is not what this conversation is going to be about. But I think that we can all agree, even if we are pre-trib, that no man knows the day nor the hour, and none of us knows how bad things are going to get before we get taken out of here. So what I want to do is just kind of set the stage here a little bit and come up with a possible outcome that I feel like a lot of us could see. So what I'm going to use as a scenario here is just inflation so high that it's going to devastate the nations. The dollar has officially collapsed, and even if there were food available, no one can afford it any longer. So it's an all-out chaos and every man for himself. So that's kind of the stage that I'm setting here. So with all of that said, my first question for the panel is, what do you think people should be focusing on preparing the most for in a worst case SHTF?
Skills. Besides your salvation, first and foremost, salvation. But obviously next to that, I think skills. That's something that is my weak point. And I'll be honest, I don't have as many skills as other, but I think skills, especially me being in the city, that's going to be something I need more of, certain types of skills. So that's my answer.
What do you think, Sassy?
Oh, sorry. I'll do. Definitely, I agree with Apartment Prepper wholeheartedly. And I also, for me, I've been focusing a lot on something that I've been calling anti-fragile, meaning that we can't be easily offended. We can't be fragile as far as a mindset. Now, I'm not talking physically. I'm talking a mindset. And so we can be more resilient when this chaos happens. We know we can be aware, right? We need to be flexible so that I think actually being flexible is actually a strong suit to have, so that you can be able to easily adapt to situations. If you're in the city, you're going to probably have to adapt faster than I would being just outside of the city. However, all of our situations are going to be changing. We're going to be going into stores, or we're going to be encountering people, and being able to quickly adapt to your surroundings is going to be a key thing, so that you be able to just be able to handle whatever you're encountering, I guess.
What do you think?
My turn?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. I think the thing that most people need to be most concerned with is civil unrest. And by that, I mean, you're going to have to secure. Yeah, you're going to have water and food and supplies, of course. But if you can't secure those items, if you can't fight and save those items,
exactly,
you're not going to have them. And folks who live in cities and suburbs and all that, people are going to be going nuts. They're going to be starving. They're going to be on drugs. They're going to be crazy. And you're going to have to do things that spiritually you may not be okay with right now. And you need to get yourself in a mindset that you may have to do that. And so that is my answer to that question.
Great answers. I think you guys all pretty much covered all the points that I had in there that I wanted to make as well, because first and foremost, I believe that everyone should be getting their spiritual houses in order, so that when we exit this world, we know exactly where we're going. Yeah. And going back to what Sassy Gal was saying, I think it's very imperative that we start thinking these things through and start getting a mental grasp on what we could be facing. you know, we don't want to talk about these things because we don't want to see people starving, and we don't want to be worried about mobs attacking us, but we need to talk about them so that we've kind of strategized not only how to prepare for it, but so that we've also gotten ourselves accustomed to that possibility. Our minds are going to need time to acclimate to these kinds of situations so that we aren't paralyzed by fear like a deer in the headlights when we're confronted with it. So
See, I think I kind of have a heads up on that, just because those in the chat may know, may not know. I was homeless for a while and experienced a little bit, experienced some stuff that I've never told anybody on here, but I was homeless for a while, my brother and I. So I kind of have an edge, I think. I know that sounds weird, but just a lot of people are soft.
Yes.
A lot of people are soft and they don't know the realities. They don't know the realities. I'm soft compared to some people, but
I know I am too. So I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to everybody else.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But that's one thing I'm actually grateful, even though that was a really hard time. I'm grateful because I learned a lot, y'all. I learned a lot about survival. I learned a lot about what you do, what you don't do, and stuff like that. So I guess I'm not, it sounds bad. I know there's going to be some bad things happen, but I'm not quite as worried as maybe a suburban mom.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, even though I'm in the city, I don't know. I can't explain it. I know things will get bad. I know things will get dangerous. And yes, I'm in an apartment, and yes, it could be really horrible, but I think my mindset is already prepared for that. Does that make sense?
It does.
It does.
Sense. So
yes, because you're able to be, you have that sixth sense about you, you know, where you're able to just kind of be an intuition, I guess, is more of what I'm saying. You have an intuition and awareness of your surroundings. Maybe be on someone in your position might be on a more of a heightened awareness, where some other people might be more comfortable. I grew up, my mom, it was just my mom and I, and we grew up right in the, what should we call it? Downtown middle of the city. Cause that's where and that's where we could stay. And, but yeah, of course it was a different time then, but still, yeah, you're on alert more probably. And when you take that with you.
Yeah, definitely.
Experience is the best teacher. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I lived in an apartment for 10 years. Back when I was younger, you know, me and the parents wasn't getting along. I lived in an apartment for 10 years, and I never realized the amount of drugs and the amount of things that go on in these apartment complexes and stuff like that. And that taught me a lot. I feel like that was invaluable, you know, to me.
Oh yeah.
I agree. I noticed Kill It and Grill It said street smart. And I think that's exactly what you were getting at with that information you were sharing with us too, huh? Apartment prepper.
I don't know if I call it street smarts. I don't think I'm street smart. That's a compliment.
Well, you know.
You know, but maybe more street smart than some.
Street savvy?
That's that, you know, street savvy. Street sassy. Street sassy. That's better than street smart, being street sassy.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Dr.
All right. So my next question for you guys is, do you think there is anything that people in the cities and suburbs can do to be prepared for complete chaos?
How do you answer that?
I've got an answer.
I know I do. So I was just thinking, like, what do you have an answer for? But mine was have an escape plan, or at least a plan of action. But I was thinking an escape plan, at least for us, is like, I was thinking about if you were in the city, you know when enough is enough and to leave. And same thing, and we're just outside of the city. And I'm like, okay, let's know when enough is enough. Let's have a plan. This is okay. This is when we like pull the plug and we leave. That was one of the things I was thinking about.
I know for me, bugging out is like my last resort.
Right.
I think it is for most of us.
Since I do have a special needs brother, it's just, I think if all hell was breaking loose around me, I would be trying to stay where I am. And I know that sounds crazy, but there are a lot of people like myself who are low income, who have different issues that they can't leave where they are, whether it's the city, the country, the suburbs, they can't. And so I was thinking, because I live in an apartment complex with a lot of seniors and disabled people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for me, I was thinking to grow that community. Mad Shad talked about this on his live last night, was talking about community. Knowing, I think you were there too, weren't you, Farmer Son, last night? Talking about community and talking about getting to know your neighbors, because you can, help each other out. And that, for me, is really important. I don't do that enough. I know a few of my neighbors, but I seem so outgoing on YouTube, but in real life, I'm very quiet. And in real life, I don't like talking to people and stuff like that. So it's hard for me to make those connections person to person on a social level. Work level, fine. I used to manage retail establishments and no problem. But social person to person, it's difficult. And I have to press beyond that and get to know these people and get to know if something comes down the pipe, who I can trust and who can build that community to help each other out, protect each other.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of my things, is I have to focus on that right now.
Great point.
Yep.
My answer to that question, I've been where you are, what you're talking about. You can't afford to leave. You have no family, no work, no place to go to.
Yep.
One of the things that you can do is move to an upper floor apartment. People who live on the first floor are going to be
fifth floor
are going to be accessible by street level, and that is not going to be a good thing. As far as mentally, can you prepare for what's going to happen? I don't think you can, unless you've ever been through it. I think it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of sifting of the wheat and chaff, so to speak. I'm using a religious term, but it's, there's going to be a lot of what is it the people call them? The soft people. They call them oh gosh, I forget the term they use for like the leftist softies. But there's going to be a lot of snowflake. That's it. There's going to be a lot of snowflakes melting when a real SHTF situation happens. Because see how they're doing right now with just a small taste of something.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. There's going to be a lot of
it's all going to come down to fight or flight. You're either going to fight or you're not. And that's where your survival lies. You've got to be willing to fight for your own survival. That's what it comes down to.
You're not going to have time to think about it. That's the other thing. So I feel like, you need to have protection. That's something that I feel like we need to do. Preferably a weapon that's going to be a true equalizer, right? So think something that could even the playing field of a mob situation. And you're going to need to know how to use that weapon and how to properly care for it. And you need to have something to fortify your windows and doors and have that ready to go now so that if the time comes, you can throw it up quickly. You don't want to be caught off guard and not even have your boards cut. And that's actually something that we're working on right now. So I'm speaking to myself too, guys. I'm not just telling you guys to do something I'm not doing. This is something I'm doing too. And I think you need to have some sort of solar lighting installed around your property so that if there's no power, you can still see people approaching. You need to be prepared for various situations that might be outside of the norm and kind of start thinking those through in your head now. So like, how do you handle a situation where a Molotov gets lobbed onto your roof? Start thinking about stuff like that. Do you have multiple escape routes outside of your home and your go bags ready? Do you have adults in your home to cover all of those sleeping shifts that you're going to need to do? And if not, do you have a plan with your mag to establish that? Do you have binoculars so that you can see further distances and night vision so you can cover those same distances when it's dark? And I know a lot of these things sound kind of far-fetched and extreme, but that's kind of the point of the talk tonight. We need to start thinking about the worst possible case scenario so that we can be completely prepared. So those are just sort of the things that I came up with.
And some people have had a taste of this already back in 2020 in the summer. Some people who lived in the cities have had a small taste of what it might be like. But most of us haven't had that yet. And it's...
Right. Exactly. but we need to be thinking about it. I think.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I think we're on the cusp of seeing some of these things unfold. It's just a feeling that I've had, and I kind of equate it to that same feeling that I had in January of 2020 when you knew things were starting to go, and it feels like we're on the cusp of that same sort of, I feel like this is going to be different than what we saw in 2020. It's going to be
it's going to be beyond that. It's going to make 2020 look like a walk in the park.
I think so too.
I mean, part of our plan here where I live, we have lots of acreage, many different roads. There's many different venues for approach, and we're having to decide which roads to lay trees down over, where our LPOPs are going to be, listening posts, observation posts. Because when you add 100 acres to something like this, it really gets complicated.
It sounds like it.
Who's going to be where, and
right.
Okay, what are they going to have?
Yeah.
So planning is of utmost importance.
And I know Prepping by Faith and I were talking about this one day this week. It might have been this morning. I can't remember. But we were talking about a lot of people think that there's only going to be issues in the city or even the suburbs. You know what? If you live in the country and you think you're safe, think again.
You're going to be. You might be safe for the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I was just going to say. Yeah.
Gangs will be coming from the cities and they'll have weapons too. Because everyone's like, well, I've got my firearms and I've got this. Sorry if I wasn't supposed to say that on algorithm stuff on YouTube, but people a lot of times think they're totally safe because they're out in the country and they've got their protection, but it's going to be a whole different ball game because those gangs in the city that are used to taking people out, that are used to doing things, when they can't find what they want in the cities, they'll start moving further abroad. And even as soon as something happens, they might immediately start moving further abroad because they just know there's nothing in the city worth taking.
Yeah.
So when it breaks loose in the city, that's when we're going to be digging foxholes and deciding what Overwatch is going to be. That'll be our 2 weeks, maybe week and a half of preparation time to really think it through and get our side ready. Because when it goes off in the cities, that'll be our key to it's time to enact all of our plans.
Yeah, that's just one of my main concerns. Is I'm more concerned about the people in the countries out in the country than I am about myself in the city, because I think so many people in the country just assume they're safe, and it's not. So y'all, please. You
need to have. I don't care if you go to Academy and get a Louisville Slugger. You need to have a baseball bat, a golf club. You need some way to protect you.
Yeah, you really do.
I agree, and I'm not just concerned about the people in the country. I'm also concerned about Christians, because I feel like there's a large group of us that wants to think that Jesus is just going to rescue us out of these situations, and we need to get that out of our mindset, because he's going to help us, but he's going to give us that strength to get through these things. And we need to be ready to defend ourselves and not just think, well, turn the other cheek sort of thing, because there are situations where you are going to be faced with defending yourself, especially if you have, children. It's going to be a natural instinct to protect them. And so you need to understand that you're not going to just want to sit in a corner and just get attacked. So,
and sadly,
I understand that these bands of roving criminals are going to use that. They're going to put women out there. Go watch the Book of Eli. They're going to put women out there with kids to try to get people to open their doors. And once they do, there's going to be 30, 40 people rushing in the house, You can't let yourself be played like that. You're going to have to be smarter than that.
Exactly. Yeah. So with that, let's navigate into this next question. I think it kind of leads into it. What kind of moral issues do you see us facing in a major SHTF?
You name it. Rapings, killings, people doing things with dead bodies they shouldn't be doing. Imagine the worst. Just imagine the worst.
I think about, there's a lot going on right now, even of people knowing there's no consequence. So they're starting to act out the things that they wouldn't have done when they knew there was consequence. And even now, just in this just now there's, you see it on the news all the time. So you imagine where there's not one single law officer, not one, when it's just literally just total chaos. Every perverted craziness in everyone's head that they've kept back and kept that under wraps is just gonna
that crazy cage of animals.
I mean, you see it, you watch. I mean, yeah, we refer to movies, but sometimes movies are right on, and you watch a lot of apocalyptic movies, and you know, stuff. The minute chaos breaks out, people are doing stuff because they know for sure no consequences. They're not going to get in trouble until somebody kills them.
Right.
All the consequences right now are on law-abiding citizens. They're stripping us of our rights. I could get on a wagon there, but they're stripping us of our rights and let the criminal do whatever they want. So I'm ready I'm kind of ready for WROL because I'm gonna get mine. I'm telling you. I'm telling you, it's gonna be bad.
Sassy, are you? We also, some things I've been hearing a lot. It's a little bit of a different angle, but the discussions of being able to, again, when enough is enough, saying no to other people who are seeking help, you know, that may not have prepared, or they may have prepared, maybe, you know, but saying no to other humans that you see suffering, it's going to be very hard. Whereas that's what I was talking about, like right now, you know, prepared to kind of say, you know, draw the line, know where you're going to draw the line. Because I mean, you help someone a little bit once, they may be coming back, and they may be coming back, and then they'll bring friends, you know, so, you know, that's going to have to be something that you're going to have to think of for yourself and for your family. It's like, you know,
because if you say no, they're just going to bring all those friends back and try and take it.
Exactly. And it's like, it's hard because people are like, well, you know, if I see children, you know, hungry, I'm going to have to give to children. But you guys are just talking about it. They'll use the children to get to you.
They will use the children. I believe that too.
I do. And so, you know, it's hard when, you know, you get to that point. It's just like, you know, well, you need to help me out. You need to give something to me because you have the stuff. And it's like, no, I've known this was coming. I've foreseen this has been an issue. I'm prepared, and you're not, but you can go over there and get some stuff, you know, and that's a parable in the Bible, the parable of the 10 virgins, and 5 of them had oil and the other 5 didn't. And when it was time to go meet the bridegroom, the 5 that didn't have it said, hey, give us some oil. And they're like, no, this is oil we need for our journey. We can't give it up. You know, or else they're not going to make their journey. And so they told them where to go get some. And then they did. And then the other 5, they missed the bridegrooms. They missed the opportunity.
It's like I've told my family. I'm telling you now.
That's right.
I'm telling you now. I'm trying to help you now. There'll be no help, you know. I can help my family. I've made preparations for extra stuff for my family, but I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be, you know, there's gonna be a lot of no's given out.
Yeah, I'm lucky I don't have to worry about the family situation because my family's on the other side of the country and we don't talk anyway. So it's just me and my brother I have to worry about. But that can also, not having other people to rely on, like I said earlier, I'm going to have to build community here in my apartment complex and get to know some people. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. I had some similar things that, you know, I had in mind, you know, just being faced with who to help and, you know, knowing that it's going to be either too dangerous or, you know, your supplies have dwindled to the point where it's like you're trying to take care of your own families. And I feel like as Christians, that's going to go against our very nature. So I think that we're going to have to really be staying as close to God as possible during that sort of situation so that he can guide us in how to help and who to help. And I feel like there's definitely a fine line in that situation because there's no way it's humanly possible to feed your entire neighborhood unless he intervenes like he did with the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, which, you know, I never know. He can do stuff like that, but we would have to know it was him telling us and he was going to do it. You know, you don't want to just step out there and make a huge mistake and get your entire family killed. And, you know, some of the situations my husband and I had been talking about is what do you do if you see, you know, a child that's out there starving and wandering around on their own? And I said, because it would be my natural instinct to want to just take that child in. But if you did, and then they got up in the middle of the night and unlocked your door and let everyone in, that's another situation that could get you. So it's not even just you opened your door and there's a mob waiting around their corner. It could be more planned than that. And they could just have that child come come in and stay
The
in
Trojan horse. The
Huh?
Trojan
Yeah,
horse.
Trojan horse.
Yeah.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are there's going to be a lot of people really mess up because they're going to let their heartstrings
Yes.
tug on them to help, and it's going to lead to death. I'm sorry, but
And
just
get your
to be
entire
blunt.
family slaughtered.
Yeah.
In that
You know,
situation.
we're not wired to think as dirty as we're talking, you know, like using kids as bait and doing this kind of stuff. You know, like, it's like we can't wrap our heads around that. And that's part of getting mentally.
That's exactly why they'll use that
Yep.
against us.
Yep.
Exactly.
And that's why we have to, you know, you have to, you know, work as Christians. We're like, well, we don't, you know, we want to assume the good in everybody, you know. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what does the Bible say about that? There is none righteous, not one.
Yeah.
So,
No,
you know,
no.
like look, when it comes to survival and you get down, you get desperate, you know, you're going to be thinking about food, and I need to get some food. I need to feed my family or whatever. And I don't care about you. You know, I'm thinking about my family, so I want to take from you. And these people are going to be coming.
Yeah.
And they
And
need
they may not be as moral
right.
as you might be, and you're going to have to. I mean, I think in a really, really true SHTF, really bad situation, we're going to have to wrestle a lot with morality and issues that we've never had to face. And that's a lot of people are really going to have issues with that. I mean, I would obviously, but I know I have to do it. You know, it's
right. Just the thought of taking another person's life is something that we don't want to think about. And the other issue with that is that you can't hesitate. You know, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, "He who hesitates is lost."
Yes.
And if you wait too long and you allowed that threat to get too close to you, and you didn't allow yourself to just react rather than think, there are certain things that, you know, we're going to have to move past this.
Again, how many movies, how many apocalyptic movies have we seen that person who hesitates?
Right.
Yeah. And they either get themselves killed or else they get the group killed.
Sniper's a good movie to watch on that.
I watch a lot of end of the world apocalyptic movies. I actually enjoy them. I think they're funny. Forgive me, but I also pick up things here and there. So
I know.
You can pick up some stuff in there. You know, some survival tips.
You can learn from movies. I'm sorry.
I know, right? There's a comment that I just saw from Jason C, and it just says that we never know what any of us are capable of until we're starving, and that is so true, because you get down to that level. And I know I watch some of those survival shows like Alone or something, you know, and when they, and I know some of them could probably, you know, whatever, far-fetched and all that, but when they get hungry, that's all they think about. And then you start seeing tensions flaring, and you see attitudes, you see people like, well, I'm not sure I want to do anything for you.
I can speak on that a little bit. As somebody who has fasted 3 days one time, you will dream about food. Yeah. You will think you're seeing food when you're not. That will completely take over your whole, you know.
Amazing.
Yeah, anytime I start a fast, I suddenly want everything in the kitchen.
Well, speaking about that, where you guys are talking about food, that's another issue all in and of itself. We're going to have to be careful about what we're cooking, that those cooking smells, especially if we're living in a densely populated area, are not escaping out the windows and then drawing people to us. So, you know, you think you're going to just get in the kitchen and start making whatever you want. You may have to rethink some of that stuff, you know? So
I think there'll be a lot of eating cold canned stuff.
I do too. And a lot of the rehydrating those, you know, the freeze dried and all that sort of thing, because it's not going to emit as many smells. So
I have to cover, my stove has a vent, and it goes, you know, goes outside. Yeah, and my son, if his window is open, he'll smell. He's like, hey, I smelled you making whatever. And so I would have to literally cover that up.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, or definitely not use it so that it would, you know, suck the smell outside.
I agree.
Yeah. That's totally right on.
Not only that, light discipline is going to be important. You know, if you don't want to be drawing people in, you don't want to appear to have electricity.
Agreed.
Or
yeah,
you're going to need blackout curtains or something to keep the light down, because you don't. Lights draw attention; they always do.
Also, you're going to have to eat less. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you're going to have to eat less, because if you're the one in the neighborhood still chubby and everybody else is getting skinny, they're going to know. Okay, so you might want to plan on doing a little bit of fasting yourself.
Yeah,
just a heads up, and not snacking every few minutes like I obviously do. So I am a snacker, and that's
something all day.
We were talking about that.
We talked about that this morning.
We did.
I graze all day long more than I eat a big meal, and I have to learn to rein that in because if something serious were to happen, I got to be looking like everybody else, I mean, to a point, you know what I mean? Have that kind of not well-fed look.
All right. So next question, guys. How can we deal with these types of moral issues that we just discussed?
I'm sorry, will you repeat the question?
Sure. How can we deal with these types of moral issues?
Doing what we're doing right now and talking about it. I mean,
Exactly.
I've talked about it with my family because like we just said, you don't know what you're going to be like until you're actually starving and you don't have any food at all. You're not sure where your next meal is coming from. And so I told her, I said, your friends that live 2 doors down the street that won't even use a BB gun to take care of a bird on their porch, that's causing a problem. I said, they're going to, they might come over here and say, hey, I see that whatever, I got your garden. We don't know. We don't know what people are going to be like. So we need to start talking about it and accepting that we're going to have to be telling them no.
Not hiding our faces in the sand. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Like just talking about it and playing through the scenarios, in your head and, start practicing saying no. I mean, it sounds kind of trivial, but
and
right there.
The things that we've talked about, like blackout curtains and all the different things that come into play, even a baseball bat, things that you may not have purchased yet, you might want to make a list. And even if you just get one a month while you can, something like that, you don't get it all in one day. At least if you're on my budget, you don't. There's some things I've had on my list for months, but I have to, I have to get one thing a month. That's more than $5. I have to get one thing a month. So, but I have a list, and that's what I'm working on. And everybody do that. But just think about if you need blackout.
That's how I've been doing it too, because I'm in the same boat. I'm not a rich person. We're broke over here, basically. After I pay the bills and buy the groceries, there's nothing left.
Exactly.
I'll go through and I'll buy one $5 or $8 tool, and that'll be my prep for the month as far as a non-food prep goes. And, so, or maybe it's a spool of wire, or maybe it's a pack of big ladders, whatever that is. You can do it.
Too small. No prep is too small.
Excellent point. I love that. And obviously doing what we're doing right now, just strategizing and talking, is a free prep. So just going over that mental preparedness that you need to do and writing down some of these, different scenarios and start thinking through them and talking to your family about them and going over this stuff with your MAG or whomever is also going to be really important, that things that you guys should be doing. So did you guys have anything else that you wanted to add in this particular question? No?
I'm good.
So I think we also need to understand that God sees all and knows all. So taking the time to pray for guidance and direction ahead of time, I think is going to be really, really important.
In God's word.
Exactly. And, just because we know we had to do something because it was self-defense doesn't mean it would be an easy thing to have to do. So surrounding ourselves with people that are going to help uplift us in those times is going to be really important as well. And we can try to comfort ourselves with the fact that we had no choice, but sometimes that isn't going to be enough to wipe away that guilt. And there's only one that I know of who can take away that level of guilt, and that is Jesus Christ. So I also believe that we can pray for God's ultimate protection, that he can make a way where there seems to be no way, and that he has the ability to catch our enemies in their own snare. So his ways are not our ways. And as long as we're doing everything we can to protect ourselves and we're not out in the chaos and we've already been prepared and we're just watchful and alert and laying low so that we're not drawing attention to ourselves, I believe God's going to do his part. It's just like how we all believe about preparedness, that as long as we're doing everything we can to the best of our abilities to prepare, he will take care of us. So we need to trust him completely and know that he will see us through. And I think the 91st Psalm is a wonderful one that we should be quoting as protection over ourselves. I feel like Isaiah 43:2 is also another powerful example of this. And I have this one here that I'm going to read to you guys. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers, they shall not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, nor shall the flames scorch you. And I also love Isaiah 54:17. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their righteousness is from me, says the Lord.
Amen.
Yes.
Preach.
Good.
So, do you guys think there is anything that we as a prepping community can do to get people more mentally prepared for these times?
Like Sassy said earlier, do more of this type of stuff where we talk about it. We don't just ignore it. And yes, we enjoy all the meal collaboration videos and shopping hauls and tool hauls and stuff, but we need to talk about the real potential, what could go wrong.
Yeah.
And
one thing I think could really help, I know y'all in the city, you may not be able to do this, but if you were able to go hunting and take an animal, I think that would help prepare you, because it's going to be a similar reaction when you know something's dead and you're the one that took it out. Hunting is something that I think is very similar. Now, you know, it's not a person, I get that, but you're going to have that thought when you kill your first deer or whatever it is. Hey, that thing's dead because of me. You know, it's going to be very similar. That's one of the only things I can think of that will help prepare you mentally for doing stuff.
I didn't mean to laugh. I apologize. I was thinking about my chicken story from last night. So.
Oh, I remember your chicken story.
Sorry, y'all. I tried to kill a chicken when I was 4. I was quite a bloodthirsty little kid, and it didn't work, and I got mad. So, yeah, Anyway.
I know that's something that I struggle a lot with, because I'm one of those people that adores all things fuzzy. It's just the way I was since I was a small child. So the thought of taking out an animal, I'm like, that's your job, husband. Sorry. I'll purchase the tools and stuff for you to do it, but don't.
But you need to learn too, because the husband may not be there.
I know. And I know if I was absolutely faced with that and it was a life or death situation and my children were hungry, I would do it. It's like, for me, it's just one of those cringe things. And I don't know how to mentally move past it, because I know Carbon Q had talked about this as well. She has a problem with that too. So there are a few of us in the community that are in the same camp that
it sounds awful. I think
the first deer I shot, and while me and Dad were cleaning it, I threw up 2 or 3 times. But that's part of the process. Getting your mind right with it, you know. That's the only thing I can think of that will help you prepare mentally for having to go through something like this.
This sounds really awful, y'all, and you're going to hate me for this, but I think I would have an easier time taking a human life than an animal. And I'm sorry, but that's just how I roll. I really love animals, even
because they're innocent.
I kill a chicken at 4, but
they're not coming at you to attack you.
Yeah, if it's coming at me, that's different.
I mean, I guess they could be, depending on what type of animal it was.
Yeah, but if it's a fuzzy little animal for dinner, I think I'd have a harder time with that. But then someone coming at me, I don't know why. That's just in my head. I like.
It's that motherly protective thing.
Better. Well, I like animals better.
They're coming after your child. You're going to do what you need to do.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yep.
Right. So, with all of this said, I feel like, everyone's situation, location, and home are different. So I think this is great for us to have this kind of conversation to really start offering more solutions rather than telling everyone they need to move all the time and relocate to the country, because I know myself that isn't a possibility right now. And I'm in a heavily populated suburb. So I think giving people the tools they need for their circumstance is more helpful. And we need to kind of navigate away from that mindset that everyone is dead if they're in a city or a suburb. Yeah. There would be casualties, but I feel like, just kind of like in the events of the past, we have seen that there are definitely going to be survivors, and to assume that there won't be any is just kind of a misguided opinion. And that's just something
I agree with that fully. There will be survivors in the city.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. You watch any of your apocalyptic movies, there's always a few survivors,
And think about this too, y'all. Just to live in the city, you got to have a little bit of a tougher skin.
Oh,
I
yeah.
really believe that. So city people, not all of them, but a lot of city people, they're pretty tough. I mean,
Mhm.
you know.
I think if Jason's still there, he's coming out.
Yeah,
that's part of that anti-fragile, mindset
Mhm.
I was talking about in the beginning. It's just like,
Yeah.
you've got to, we talk about mental toughness all the time, and you have to be willing to be uncomfortable. So you have to be willing to get into that uncomfortable zone and walk in that, and just so you can be uncomfortable. That's the only way you're going to be able to, deal with things.
I like what Jason C just said. Did you guys see that comment?
Yes. Yeah.
He said, for those here, I'm going to click on it. It's added in here. For those of you who have a hard time killing an animal, it's much easier to set up traps, because then you come to a dead animal. You don't have to actually physically kill it. And I love that point. That is awesome.
That is a really good point.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that.
And then if you set up a bunch of traps, then you've got you've spread your net of possibility there, I guess, and it's doing the work.
Traps are working for you while you're doing other things.
Yeah. So I feel like that's the skill that we probably all, if we haven't started thinking about,
we may take out an ornery neighbor you don't like either, so that's kind of cool.
Right?
Sorry. Gotta think of the positive in all this.
Right. So, okay, what have I got on here? Here's my last question for you guys. So what do you think is the most crucial to our coming out the other side of a major SHTF?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'll let the others go first on that one.
No, I wasn't sure I was understanding the question. Like what's the most crucial, like as a skill or as a...
In general.
In general, yeah, just in general. Whatever comes to your mind. There is no wrong answers. Everybody's gonna have a differing opinion.
The willingness to fight. You're gonna have to fight for your survival. It's gonna come down to the fight or flight. I've said it before. That's what it's gonna come down to. You don't know how you're gonna react until you're in that situation, and it's gonna come down. You got to be willing to fight for your family, to fight to keep your supplies.
Yeah,
that's what it's gonna come down to. And have the security tools at your behest to do so.
I guess one of the things that came to my mind just as you were talking was you're going through the valley, like, yea, though I walk through the shadow of the valley, and we're walking through it rather than sitting there. That we're coming through. Sometimes it seems like it's not going to end, but there probably is going to be another side, but it's going to be different. But we're going to be walking through. And for me, I know Jesus is walking with me. Amen. I'm not alone, and I'm able to be strengthened because of that, so I can stay the course. Yeah. So I think for me, I guess it would just be my focus, keeping it where it needs to be, on the straight and narrow, not on all this other crap that's going on. Because this, Peter, walking on the water, took his eyes off of Jesus and he started to sink. So,
he lost focus. Yep.
Yeah.
Lost focus. If we're keeping our focus and not being so distracted, it's hard not to, when everything, the news changes every day.
Exactly.
But,
every 5 minutes.
But keep the thought, keep the focus, and I think that's going to help us get through it. We don't know what's going to be, what's the other side going to look like?
Yeah. I think
you have to just keep the faith. Absolutely. Keep stacking.
Yeah.
Don't quit.
Yeah, like that.
Get tired, take a break. Okay, that's fine, but don't give up is the main thing.
Yeah. I think for me personally, I see it as, like they've said, my faith in Christ. Honestly, I don't know where I'd be without it. So I know through any situation, it helped me once before. Hey, when I was homeless, that's the one thing I clung to. So I think that. And then also, we got to remember, throughout history, civilizations have fallen and got back up.
Yes. Amen.
There's always a remnant.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a remnant. Whether or not I'll be part of that remnant, I don't know. And I'm not worried about that, because I know what's going to happen to me if something does happen to me. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
That's
You
right.
know, dying doesn't scare me. I'd rather not die right now, but it doesn't scare me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But to come out the other side, if I come out the other side, I think a lot of it's going to have to be to do with skills, like I said, but communication, I think, is a big one.
Big, yeah.
Think about that. If you had to rebuild a society after everything and you were there for that, if you can't communicate, if you
Right.
can't get not everyone's going to get along. That's just a dream. But in general, if you can't basically communicate with a human one-to-one, and I've said this is not my strong point, but you have to be able to do that, or else once you're on the other side, nothing's going to move forward. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I do.
Your civilization, if it's at that point where it's so bad that you have to rebuild things, people are going to have to come together and be able to communicate. And my concern is any snowflakes make it to the other side? Hopefully by then they know how to communicate, because they sure don't now. Just saying.
Yeah.
There won't be snowflakes anymore.
I'm sure one or two will make it.
There'll only be battle-hardened people who are ready to rebuild a society. That's what'll be left.
Yeah, there might be a few lucky ones that tagged along. So
yeah,
but that's my take on it.
Awesome points. I think all of you guys had really great points on that one. For me, this is just something that I've been thinking a lot about. So I think that we really need to start organizing better as a community, and we need to try to give more guidelines about how to form a MAG, how to vet people, how to establish communications with other groups, and get those sorts of things in place now. Community is based on trust, and having those people in our group rather than just a few names that we chat with on YouTube is going to be really important. And I know I definitely don't have all the answers, but I'd like to see a situation where we as content creators started meeting outside of YouTube to kind of put these things together and brainstorm how to really truly build community. And like I said on Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival's live stream, I think we also need to start working on setting aside our petty differences and start really being serious about becoming a community. And we need to know what are the deal breakers in our group and what are things that are sort of minuscule in the grand scheme of things and can be overlooked. And I feel like that's the point where I'm at right now.
Yeah,
I think one of the main things as far as being in a MAG, you've got to be willing to work. They can't be easy people in a MAG. You've got to be, if you can't carry a rifle or do that thing, you've got to be able to cook. You've got to be able to work, wash dishes, whatever it takes, field for an animal, whatever it takes. You're going to be assigned a job in a MAG. You're going to have a position, and you've got to be willing to do it. If the MAG leaders or the tribe council or whatever comes to you and says, we need you to clean the outhouse and you need to go do it, that's your job.
Yeah, everything needs
to be done.
Don't be
afraid of a little hard work, which a lot of people are right now.
Right.
Yes.
So one of the things I've kind of thought about as far as, the communications aspect, and I know this hasn't really been discussed that I know of, but we've got to figure out another way of communicating with other groups across the country. And I feel like maybe ham radios would be the way to go. I haven't really looked into it a whole lot. I know a lot of that has to do with line of sight, but I feel like we would almost have to create almost like a chain in which, I may be in Colorado only able to reach somebody in Oklahoma, but then maybe that person in Oklahoma can reach somebody in Tennessee. And then that person in Tennessee can reach somebody in Virginia who can reach somebody in New York. And if we could figure out how to kind of, I don't know how this all works.
It's going to be way smaller scale than that. You're like where I live. It's going to be somebody in Birmingham talking to somebody in, maybe Gaston or another close town. It's way smaller unless you have the money now and the licenses to get an HF high frequency rig, there's a lot of money in doing that. Setting up the antennas, it costs a lot of money. Now that's the only way you're going to talk around the world, that type of stuff. But your little bow things. I've been a ham radio operator for over.
Awesome. I love getting this input.
So, I'm an extra class ham, been that way for years and years. But the little bow things and the little CBs is going to be small scale, and
I think much bigger.
they can be, there's something in ham radios called traffic. And you start out with a piece of paper, you write out your message. And it's just like back in the old days, one station, okay, like if I have traffic for Texas, okay, well then it's going to pass through every ham operator from here to Texas. And when it gets to Texas, that guy's going to call the number that's on that piece of paper and relay the message, if telephones are even viable at that point.
Right. Right.
That's how ham radio people move traffic right now, the way it is. Yeah.
So we'd have to think a much more expensive, grander scale in order to connect outside of states, is what you're saying.
I don't think in a really serious SHTF situation, we're going to be worried about outside of states. That's just my.
It's going to be pretty much local.
Neighborhood, you know, what's going on in the neighborhood. Yeah.
You're not going to worry about what's happening in Virginia if you're in Washington State.
Exactly right.
Right.
Shortwave radios, you know, you can listen, like get you a shortwave radio, you can listen, you can hear the things that are going on over there. Like if there's if there's a new Patriot coalition that's forming in Virginia, and you can listen and hear that. And if they ever come your way, you can be ready to join that up or whatever, you know, join up with them. But you'll need to be able to receive is the biggest part. You'll need to be able to pick up distant stations, which shortwave radio will do that.
That's a good start right there.
Yeah.
That's a good start.
Agreed. I appreciate that.
There's some other things. This not really ham radio related, but there are in my area. There's a homesteaders conference that they've had every year. I don't know if they took a break during like 2020, 21 or anything. I don't think they did. But those, if they have those in your area, you should go to those because that's where you'll get your other connections.
Utah has prepping conferences. Go Utah.
That's awesome. The Homesteaders Conference is like 30 minutes south of me. And so, you know, I try to go to those. And then there's other people where you can just do meetups. I know Pinball did one in his area where they had a meetup and people just, you know, met up, you know, and they had a time, you know, and they're able to make connections and talk and find out where everybody's at, you know, and you can kind of connect with each other. And then he also did something that was really cool where he sent, I think there were seeds or something, and they sent like
I remember him
old
doing
chain letter style thing, which I kind of like that. That would be kind of cool to like send stuff through the mail, even if it was just communications.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly,
there won't be any mail.
No, there will. I'm sorry. My husband works for the Postal Service, so
he's going to be Kevin Costner.
It's written into the Constitution. There will always be mail going to every single door, no matter what happens. So sorry. Yeah. Anyway, so what were you saying?
I'll be looking for your husband to deliver me some mail after an SHTF because
he's part of the infrastructure that would make that happen.
I remember the movie The Postman, and it was all about getting the mail started again. And it was most people didn't like it. I like that movie. Again, I like apocalyptic end of the world movies. So
and they do have a plan. They have an apocalyptic plan.
Nice.
Did not know that. I'd have to unalive you. That's what's unalive you. Anyway, I think Farmer Son, were you getting ready to say something about what Pinball was doing or something?
The seed thing, if I remember correctly, you had to put some seeds in to take some out or something like that. That's all I was going to add. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and that's like your old fashioned chain letter style thing. But I liked that because people were getting, you know, there might be something in there that you didn't have, and then you can put, you know,
it's a seed. It was a seed exchange, not a seed giveaway.
Yes, an exchange, absolutely. Yep. And I liked that was interesting. I thought, wow, people are still doing that kind of stuff. So yay. But
I like what Vancity just said too. She says, "Need someone in the sky." That's an excellent point as well.
Right, there you go. Pilot.
And great idea there.
I know smoke signals. Hey, it used to be a real form of communication.
It did, you know.
Still do that.
We have to start thinking about the old ways, right? I mean, that's another thing I was thinking about as far as like food goes. You know, a lot of us are into the whole canning, pressure canning, but if water was scarce or something, canning takes a lot of water. And you have to have everything sanitized a certain way. So we may need to start thinking even further back about how they did things as far as food preservation. You know, I don't know about like maybe smoking the meat and, you know, all these different
cold smoking, larding. You can use lard to protect meat. You know, there's different ways that they did it back then. But I think cold smoking and salt was the most common.
Salt. Lots and lots of salt. Exactly.
We're studying what the Native Americans did. We're trying to figure out some of the things that they did. You know, because of preserving meat, I think was a big thing. That what did they do when they first came over here? I know the colonists did something with putting meat in the ground or something, or that was curing it. You know, just things like that. You know, like how did they do it before we had refrigeration?
If you ever want to learn
root cellars.
Cook,
root cellars is what you're talking about. Yeah. There's a great. It's on Tubi. It's a free TV app thing, but it was a Canadian show, and it was called. People were leaving their lives and going back and living in the 1800 times, like in present day. I can't remember what the name of it was, but it was an awesome show to watch.
I saw a show
and
like
their fridge was in the ground. They had a door that opened up into the ground, and that's where they kept things, vegetables and all that.
Yeah. I was going to say, if you've never seen a Maori hungy, Maori, Maori, the Maori people of New Zealand, they cook in the ground. Other people here, I think natives have done it here, but I grew up in New Zealand, childhood in New Zealand, so I was used to it. Maori hungy, where they used like hot rocks and leaves and stuff like that to cook the food in the ground. And it was always a big deal when they had a hungy. It was
Hawaii. People in Hawaii do that. It's called luau.
Yeah, Maoris are descendants of Polynesians, so yeah.
Also, like Koreans, they put rotten cabbage in the ground. It's called kimchi. So it's another way people do that.
Awesome. So I wanted to take the time real quick to open up the chat for any questions that you guys have for the panel. If you could go ahead and put those in caps, I would appreciate it.
You'll have to call them out to me. I can't see them.
I'll try to put them on screen too. So if that makes it easier, I don't know. I will read it though. We're just sitting here waiting for you guys. You guys have anything for us?
Remember, there
we must have solved all the world's problems if nobody has any questions.
We solved all the world's problems in 1 hour.
If we raised a lot of really good points, though. So there's that.
I hope so. I mean, I was being goofy, but I was being serious too, y'all. I hope you know that.
Oh, absolutely. But we're talking about
you gotta have time to enjoy life. Laughing's, part of being healthy.
All right, here's this one. Henry Family says, best beginner ham radio setup, where to buy?
Baofeng.
I'm going to listen.
Okay, the cheapest would be a Baofeng. I think it's, I can't remember what the little numbers are. GR5R, UV5R, something like that.
I have one in my closet. I don't know.
I've got one. It's in EMP storage right now. But anyway, the Baofeng is going to be the cheapest, not necessarily the best. There are other brands that are more expensive, but if you're looking for the cheapest, the Baofeng is the way to go.
But the Baofeng will work really well. No, I have not used mine, but I researched it a lot before I bought it because I could not afford a lot. But I did a lot of research on it. And that Baofeng handheld, you'll have haters like everything, but there's also a lot of people who really believe in it. So
one thing I like about Baofengs is they receive just about everything. You can listen to airplanes, police. You can put.
And then if you get the long attachment antenna that you can attach to it, you can pick up even more.
We have. That's what we have.
Yep,
that's what we have, and we talk to people in West Virginia. So that's our setup.
That's I got mine a couple years ago, and I haven't got my ham radio license yet, but I can listen on it. I just can't.
Right.
legally talk on it, but as Barry Storms Radios and Cats, we were saying in another live the other night, in an emergency, I sure as heck would say something on it if my life.
Yeah, an emergency, yeah, go for it.
I'm not going to hold it against
in an emergency, there, you know, you don't have to have a license.
Yeah, exactly.
And what the FCC considers an emergency, if you've got people like that need emergency care, it's usually like life, limb, and property or something like that. That's what they consider an emergency.
Yeah, and Kill It and Grill It has a good point. If a national emergency is declared, do you need a ham license?
No,
probably not.
Nope.
Exactly. Uncle Al made a great point. He says, don't forget about being clean. I think that hygiene is going to be critical because we don't want to see a situation where we are, you know, getting different diseases and things.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want to see infections set in, those sorts of things. So hygiene is going to be imperative.
Hygiene and trash cleanup for an apartment. I'll be doing a video on that probably next month or the month after. It's on my list of things to do because I've had some requests. So
on top of hygiene needs to be toileting, because that's going to be huge if people are going to be going in their driveways or dumping. I mean, I don't know about.
Don't put it in the water, people. Whatever you do, please don't put it in the water.
Stuff is going to be going on.
I'm thankful I live on the 5th floor of the apartment and not on the 1st in a situation.
Woo-hoo-hoo, yeah.
So LG,
I know how I'm going to handle that, but how y'all would handle that in the city, I have no idea.
Right, exactly.
So LG asked us, how do you keep your faith up? And I feel like with that one, that's something that you should be doing now. Don't wait until you're in a crisis mode and call on God. He's not a genie in a bottle. We're not trying to just get some wishes. We need to be spending time in the word and in prayer and in building a relationship, because it's more than just, you know, going to church on Sunday or watching something on your phone. It's about having a true relationship with our Creator and with Jesus. And the only way to do that is to create a two-way communication. So he needs to be able to get a hold of you. He needs to be able to communicate with you. Don't just dump all of your needs and wants and desires on him. Ask him what he wants of you. Ask him what he wants you to do and what your role is in that relationship. So that's
one thing I've done. Prepping by Faith knows about this, but you know, the last week or so, I haven't been on YouTube as much. I've had some issues with my brother's health, but I also have stepped back and I'm taking some more time to study my Bible in the morning, to have a prayer time and stuff like that, because I found that I was getting more fear and I was getting more stuff that I didn't like, that I normally don't deal with. Because when you watch a lot of prepping stuff, you know, you can get a lot of fear. And so I have been making myself set aside time. So I'm getting that time with God now. So when an emergency comes, I'm not just trying to get in with him then. You know what I mean?
I would say for this person who asked this question, find you a good devotional book, morning and evening or something like that. Read a devotion in the morning, or you can just use your Bible and read a scripture in the morning. But it's important to just, like, you know, and Prepping by Faith said everything I was going to say. Be grounded in the Word. You got to know what's in the Bible. There are things coming up you're going to need to know. Just, you know, and if you can't read the King James, which, hey, I completely understand, there's New Living Translation. That's one I particularly really like, and it's plain English. It's easy to read.
I use I do apps a lot because I can take this wherever I go, and it's a YouVersion Bible app, and it's got several guided devotions and lots of things that I've been working through right now about anxiety, depression, you know, and things like that. There's a topic just for about everything. It's like you were talking about guided devotionals. You can read. You could download versions. You could download commentaries and all that good stuff, concordances and all that kind of stuff. So it's all here. And then, you know,
worship is another great one, guys. I mean, worshiping is something that we should be doing. And Apartment Prepper sent me the most beautiful song today, and I shared it on my community page for you guys. So if you're interested in that, I would highly recommend you guys listening to that song, because that one had me crying. So it really ministered to me in a great and mighty way. So
did you see Killing and Grilling asking if we could share his what he wrote about the dictionary. I have it pulled up if you want me to.
Sure. Where is that at? Is that above where I'm at, though?
It's way above, yeah. But I went back and found it.
Okay.
Kill It and Grill It said, buy everyone in your mag an identical dictionary and use numbers to communicate, like 38183 is the page number, A is the row, C is the word. You know, you've seen that again in movies.
Yeah, but it's a great idea. Excellent advice.
Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Sorry we missed that Kill and Grill It, but that is great.
It's easy to miss them, trust me.
Yeah, it is.
So Rita has a question for you, Farmer Son Preppin. She says, how are you prepared to keep hunters off your land?
We have signage. That's one of the first things you do as a landowner. You have signage, no trespassing. You know, all hunters will be shot, something like that. You know, we may not be able to keep them off the land. But we've got game cameras. It's more than one thing. It's a system: fences, game cameras, signage. It's more of a system than it is one individual thing. But yes.
Sandra Gordon says that we've done a great job. And how should I prepare my children? They are 10 and 13.
Watch last night's live with Van City Prepper. Oh, sorry.
That, you know what? That's actually a great point, though, because we did go over a lot of information. Myself and Sassy Gal were both on that live stream. If you guys missed it, it was all about preparing for families. There are so many different points that we raised. I can't even begin to remember all of them, but I know some of the things were just start working through some of the basic things as far as preparedness goes now, making sure they know how to respond in a fire, making sure they know how to respond if an intruder were to break in the middle of the night and they heard gunshots, making sure they know how to respond if they were home alone and you weren't there, how they should react in those situations. One of the things I brought up was just having a code word with your children. It's something that I do with mine. So if we're in an emergency situation, we're spread out in the home and I yell red, they know, come to mama right now. It's time to get further directions. So just things like that, I think are going to be important.
I don't have children. I want to state that right now. I don't have kids, but tell them the truth. And at that age, 10 to 12, don't candy coat it.
No.
Tell them the truth.
Yep.
Tell them, hey, God is real. You know, this world is going nuts. Nobody can be trusted. Just tell them the truth. It's the biggest thing. Yep. And teach them the Bible.
You can do it because you know your children, and you can do it in such a way that's age appropriate. You know, obviously when they're younger, 5 or 6, you're not going to be as graphic, but always being honest with them and like the no sugarcoating thing. Like we've always been real about end of life, so that's from animals to people. We didn't try to hide it from our kids. It's just like, this is the cycle of life. This is how God created it. There's a beginning and an ending for animals and people, and that's a part of life. But if you're going to try to sugarcoat it and make it, we
live in a world that
don't confuse them. Sugarcoating it will confuse some kids. Yeah. Now I understand down at a small age, you need to kind of sugarcoat that for smaller children. But 10 and 12 years old, they can. You need to just tell them the truth. And there are things that kids can do during SHTF. You can teach them how to load magazines. You can teach them how to bar the door. There are jobs that they can do in SHTF. They will not be helpless or useless.
Need to have a role. They do. Because everybody's going to have a role. You're not going to have anybody just, now if it's a baby, that's something totally different. They're not going to be
not as fragile as people think. No, I do not have children, but I was a child. Okay. Yeah. And we live in a world that treats children a lot differently than they used to be treated. And sometimes that's good, but sometimes, they're kind of treated very babyish, even when they're older.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
like you said,
you're not their best. You're not their best friend. You are their parent.
Yeah, right.
It's just, everybody gets a trophy nowadays, and oh my, it's just
we're in a society.
Children are smarter.
Yeah.
then everyone gives them credit for.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know,
When
that's
we're in a
just my 2
society right
cents.
now,
Like I said, I'm not a parent, but I was a child, and I've worked with a lot of kids over the years. So just they know when you're telling the truth.
They do.
And they know when you're BSing them, and they will not appreciate the BS.
Nope.
Yeah. I've taught, you know, I teach 4th and 5th graders at church, and she's spot on. They can spot when somebody's being fake. They know when you're being truthful.
Yep.
Yeah.
So in my crosshair has a question. How would you secure your basement? I know for us, we do have window wells. So that is an area that has to be secured. That's one of the reasons why I was talking about the boards, because that's going to be an important thing. We do have an area in there where we have storage. So there is another situation where we have got night locks that we would throw on that door as an extra bolt if we had to go into that space and we were in a situation. We do have other windows down there that have to be boarded up as well. It's going to be a situation where you can't just leave that area unattended. You're going to have somebody that is patrolling the entire home. You can't just go ahead and leave it and expect, you know, you're going to hear it in the middle of the night, because you won't. So, you know, if you could set up some sort of cameras, that's as long as you still have power, that's going to be something else. We do have cameras in our home that we have set up. So that's another thing that you can do, is just position them on certain areas so that you would get alerted. Those are just some things. Another thing you could do if you were in a situation where you didn't have electricity that we have thought about is baby monitors. So as long as you have a generator, you can go ahead and position those baby monitors around certain windows where you need to have an extra set of eyes.
Yes.
That's a good tip.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anything else anybody wanted to add on that one?
Make a way to bar the door. I don't mean lock the door handle. I mean make a way to put put a bar in. You know, when you want to be able to open it, take the bar out. My dad uses an old shotgun barrel for one of his doors down there on his shop. You just, I don't know how he makes it, but you use boards and you make something to slide like a bar in between and bar that door. And sorry, go ahead.
I know I want to ask all y'all here and even the chat, because this is a question that I have, is that the way our house is the backside of our basement is full open. So I have 2 windows that are basically kind of ground level. And then I have French doors, and they have big windows in them. And I don't really know what to do other than putting, you know, plywood, like boarding them up. I especially don't know what to do with those French doors. You know, because they have glass in them. So I would
just suggest boarding them the same way. I mean, and you need to measure out. You need to make sure that when you're boarding these things, that it has something to grip onto. So you want to look for your studs and make sure that has something that's going to help brace it. And rather than using nails, I would just go in there with screws, because you're going to want something with. And definitely, I mean, the way I've thought about this is just doing it on the inside rather than the outside. And I feel like that kind of accomplishes a couple things, because as long as you put those blinds down, people aren't going to be aware that you've got those boards, because if you put them on the outside, they're going to see it. And another thing is if they do break the glass, it's going to fall outside rather than inside. So less cleanup for you.
Now,
you don't want your boards on the outside. They'll have better access to taking them off.
That's what I was always thinking that way.
Yeah, but, I would want to put them
in natural disasters, is that they always put them.
Yeah, I've read several security experts, blogs by security experts talking about boarding up the inside and not the outside. For that very reason, people can tell you've got boards. That means there's somebody probably in the house.
Yep.
And they're easy for them to take off. So that was I've seen many.
If you have like, like cinder block or, cement, basically, I mean, are you able to, because I'm not exactly sure what I could actually screw into on the inside, because it's unfinished. So I'm literally looking at like my window, and then I would have like cinder block right there.
That's probably your easiest option, is to knock the windows out and then brick up the windows. I mean, that's going to be a couple $100, but I mean, that would be the safest option,
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen your basement with all that. I remember the first time you showed, I think, one of your pantry videos downstairs. I was like, wow, that's a lot of
Yep. It's so
that's a lot of open space.
Yeah, stinking French doors down there because, you know, we never finished it. You know, like lots of people in our neighborhood have a finished basement. So it's like a complete little apartment down there. But I would almost rather have that because then at least I've got walls and stuff that I can screw stuff into. Anyway,
Right.
Go ahead.
Next question. Jason C asks, what's your strongest prepping skills? That is a loaded question. I don't know.
Loaded. Are you trying to talk secretly there? Loaded.
Right? No, I'm definitely not strong in that yet. I'm still working on that skill, as many of you can tell. Yeah, but it's definitely something that I'm getting more practice in, and I think it's something that we're making a priority in our family. My husband and I have actually found a place where we can go that's not overly expensive, so we're going to be trying to go there, if not once a month, at least once every couple months. It's going to be something that we feel we really need to do. And he has his, he just got his concealed carry permit. He was in the military, so he does already have previous training with a weapon. So don't worry about that, guys. He does have some training. He's not just walking around with the thing willy-nilly.
You're right to carry.
Yeah, but you know, do it in a safe way, right? So we are going to be getting more practice with that. But you know, as far as my strongest prepping skill, I mean, I feel like for me a lot, it's critical thinking. I feel like that's probably one of my stronger ones, is just being able to think through different scenarios, different situations that we could be presented with. And yeah, that, and maybe, I don't know, encouraging people.
I think for me, my most, I think my best one was probably communications. Ham radios, knowing how to make antennas, that type of thing, and fishing. I'm pretty good at fishing as well. Those are probably my top two.
I'll be honest, skills are not my strongest suit. Now, I don't know. I'm good at staying calm, which is a big one. Staying calm and keeping other people around me calm. I've had to learn that with my brother.
Yep.
So that is one of my skills, is calming people down. And I had to do it as a movie theater manager for years. So general manager of a movie theater in the 90s. And so I dealt with a lot of angry men who didn't think a woman should be running a movie theater. So I'm pretty good at calming people down. Yeah. Oh, Sassy, I'll tell you stories someday.
Don't make me sassy.
I'm good at calming people down and staying calm in a tough situation. That's, that's not necessarily a prepping skill. That's a life skill.
Definitely. That's really
my
skill. About here. Yeah.
I'm slowly learning other things. So,
yeah. I don't know if I have a lot of little things that I can do, little things being, like sewing and creating things, repairing things in that nature. Right. I mean,
another one.
Huh?
Cooking.
Saving money, finding deals, encouragement, like that's a huge one. Encouraging and teaching. Like what I learn, I'd teach someone else, seeing the big picture. I can fish. Haven't really gotten a hunt yet. I've gone out, but I can't.
I did hunting and fishing as a kid, so it's been years. But I bet I could pick back up on it. But
Yep. So little bits of things, like I guess my strongest would be jack of all trades, master of none.
You know what? That's so important, though. I feel like that we need to have, diversity in our skills and know how to at least do a little bit of everything, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's most critical. I think those kind of skills are going to be really important in SHTF.
And I do plan on taking some first aid. I missed the one this past month. I didn't have the money for the class, but I'm taking a class at our local hospital.
Awesome.
In the fall. Mm-hmm. And it's like a 3-part class, and you get 3 different certificates.
Yep.
I'm going to be doing that. And then my goal is to get my ham radio license. So my first level ham radio license, the basic one to start with. So I want to get that this year.
Awesome.
You can do it.
Oh, yes.
Let me give you a tip. If you're trying to get your ham radio license, study the question study the correct answer, and move on.
There you go.
Don't read all the answers that are wrong. Because if you read them, they'll stick in your mind. Read the question, read the correct answer, and move on to the next question.
Okay.
That's how you study.
Great.
That's how you study for him. Yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
We already answered this one, right?
Yes.
Okay. I thought we did, but I just wanted to make sure. I don't see. Do you guys see any other questions?
No, but did Sassy see that comment about the door?
I have not. Nope.
It was, let me see if I can find it again. It was from Karen. She said, we have a slider in basement below our deck. We had a fence put up, iron, under the deck. So an iron fence.
That's good. That's a good idea.
Good. Mm-hmm.
Jason said not to forget about how valuable shutters are. And they even have steel shutters these days. So that's great information as well.
Oh,
when I lived in a house in Oklahoma, I had a sliding door, and sliding doors are so easy to break into. And if I'd stayed there, I was going to be getting one of those pull shut grate metal. One of those that you pull across and you can. Yeah, I was going to be getting one of those.
These are French doors, so it's not necessarily that's not sliding. They're French doors.
Oh, no, but you can get something to go over it, maybe like. From the inside, you can maybe hook something up that in a jam, you could pull it across.
Okay. I'll look into that.
Is there any way on the French doors to put a chain through the door handles and chain them up?
I will think about that. I'm thinking. I'm worried about the glass. I'm just worried about someone would be able to break through
the boards, like she said, the boards, that way if someone doesn't break the glass, it falls outside. I think that's,
Right.
So in my crosshair said, I guess I'm thinking more defensive type of things for the basement. Like if you were trapped down there and they lit your house on fire kind of thing, how could you defend and retreat through the basement?
Carefully.
So yeah, exactly. Carefully. I mean, in that situation, that's another reason why we were talking a lot about fire safety last night and having things like, what am I thinking of?
An escape route?
This is why you have bug out bags. This is why you plan for bugging out. You plan it ahead of time, and this is why like if your house is on fire, you grab your bug out bag and you get out.
Right.
As far as in the basement goes, yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
Especially if your basement doesn't have an exit.
That would be so. I guess for me, I'm kind of wondering if you're asking if it would be a good idea to kind of retreat to the basement and then try to escape out that way. I probably wouldn't try to do that if I were you. I would never go lower in a home when there's a fire and you want to get out. So do not try to go down and go out through your basement if you're thinking that's going to be more of a defensive measure. As far as what I was talking about earlier,
the line of thinking there is that they're concrete walls, they won't burn. Well, yes, that's true, but everything above you is going to fall down on top of you.
Yeah, don't do that. So
right.
Yeah. And so what I was talking about earlier, I don't know if that got you thinking about that, where I was talking about if somebody lobbed a Molotov on your roof or something. What I was going for there was like in that situation, having somebody there to kind of, be a distraction for the crowd while somebody else is able to get up on the roof and put that fire out is where I was going with that, because you don't want that to start spreading. And like in our house, we do have a small window that sits up above our garage that we could go out through to get onto that roof. So thinking about things like that and how you would get there quickly, because you may not have a ladder or something that's like easily at your disposal. So just be kind of strategizing that way, I guess, is what I was going for.
In my mind, I think retreating to the basement almost sounds like you're being cornered unless you have a good out.
Right.
Unless you have a way.
Now.
Yeah. Unless you have a good out. And Uncle Al said escape tunnel made me think of Steve McQueen.
Thank you so much for the super sticker, Vancity. I really appreciate that.
Yay!
Thank you. I appreciate that greatly. Pepper Prepper says, what got you into prepping?
Oh gosh.
It's been a lifestyle for me. I've been doing it I've always been a preparedness person. But it was I guess really when it kind of kicked up was just basically when we started having kids. and I wanted to be able to save money. And so I was couponing at the time, like Mitten Prepper. And she was like, couponing heavily, and I would buy things at rock bottom prices. And with a coupon, so you're either getting them for very little or for free. And then I would start to stock up that way so that I could shop, when I would run out of something, I would shop from my working pantries, and then I would replace it during the next sales cycle. And so I was always stocking up so that I would never, as a way to save money and like lock in those prices at the time. And it's just been ongoing, and I ramped it up when, we like 2019 ish or something, I started, we started stocking up on some things, and then, it's just been getting more and more after that.
I think for me, it's always been a lifestyle, but what really ramped my prepping up was being a ham radio operator. I was attached to a mobile kitchen unit during Hurricane Katrina through the Southern Baptist Association, and being there and seeing what those people went through. And that was one of the major things that kickstarted my prepping, as far as, especially after Katrina, they came and took a bunch of people's weapons and all kind of stuff. That is what set me off on the prepping journey I'm on now, really.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. For me, it was my mom. My mom was, I said this in someone else's life. My mom was a prepper, light prepper, whatever you want to call it. She kept a few things around in case of, power outage and stuff like that. A few extra cans of food. We always had several can openers for some reason, like 10, but, and then just a few cans. So she was a can opener addict, and I picked that up from her. But anyway, she always had a few things. And then we kind of hit some hard times and started, we weren't couponing, but we did do sales when they used to do the 10 for 10s and stuff like that. We had very limited money, like I do now, but we would stock up on what we could get just to make it through for a while. And that just morphed. I mean, I've been doing that since mid 20-teens. And then honestly, once 2020 hit and everything got really weird, I doubled down. So.
Yep.
So for me, I've kind of always grew up in that preparedness type lifestyle as well. So some of you know this, some of you don't. My mom was actually one of 12 children. So she grew up extremely poor. So, that whole mindset of not having anything in the home to eat and growing up like that made her always have food in the pantry. So we always grew up with at least several months of food put back because of that. My grandma on my dad's side actually went through the Great Depression. So she was another one that had things all the time. She was the type that, would keep all the newspapers, and she had all the little packets of ketchup and all those sorts of things in jars all over, and just really didn't get rid of anything because of going through that sort of thing. So I grew up like that. And my aunts on my mom's side, because they lived through that too, they were other ones that had plenty of food in their home. So seeing all that as an example just made me realize that I needed to do that too. So I grew up with that. And then also coming from a military family, I feel like when you come from a military family, you kind of are of that preparedness mindset as well, because you're constantly having to start over, reset, and you also need to have things on hand because you're moving all the time and you're in different situations. Like we were stationed in Guam when I was young. So, you go through typhoons, so you have to have things on hand as far as, your light sources and other things like that. Water, when you're overseas, you always have bottled water. That's just something you do. You don't drink the water over there because you could get sick. So I grew up like that. So, I guess that's kind of where a lot of this came from. And then, we just started researching a lot of things and realizing that we needed to accelerate our level of preparedness. So a lot of that happened prior to this when we first built this home together, because I do share a home with my parents. In 2015, we did start looking into purchasing freeze-dried food. That was one thing that we got into, was getting all of that stuff set up. And then obviously it accelerated in 2020. And I think it did for a lot of people. So that's kind of more when I started watching a lot of the prepper channels, because it wasn't something that I really thought about. I was just like, this is preparedness. This is what we do. And I didn't even realize there were prepper channels. So it was really interesting and eye-opening for us, because we did start to learn a lot of other skills that we hadn't really thought about. That's when my mom decided to get into dehydrating and pressure canning. And she really took on that role in the household. So that's just kind of, I know that was a little bit long, sorry, but
no.
I have
It's your live
to.
stream. Don't apologize.
I have to run. I have to get up at 5:30 in the morning.
Sure.
So I'm gonna
Thank you
skip
so
out, but
much.
y'all keep talking, and I'm gonna come back and see all this more basement conversation. I see some more.
Enjoy your time off, and thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank
Hey,
you.
y'all,
We really enjoyed having you on.
I'm going to throw a plug real quick. Sassy and I are going to be doing a live on prepping for special needs on her channel coming out.
Awesome. Yay.
Yes, July, it's the last Sunday of July, the 31st.
Great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
but yeah, we'll be teasing you and letting you know what's happening. So anyway,
Sounds
y'all take care, be aware, and in prayer. I love you. Catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, what else did I miss? Did I miss something else on here? Okay, so back to this scenario. Say people are attacking you and you have to retreat to the basement, and since you have them funneled at the stairs and they can't get to you, so they set your house on fire. And then he says you have windows.
Like I said, retreat to the basement, bad idea.
But, try to look out the windows first. Make sure nobody's going to see you when you're trying to come out, and try to bust out a window and get out. Save your life.
I agree. I mean, you're not going to stay in there and burn to death, right? I mean, that nobody's going to go out that way. I mean, I think at that point, you'd rather take a bullet than take the fire. That's just me. That's how I see it. I would risk that.
Being burned alive has got to be the best way to go. Yeah.
At that point, if that's your only option, you're going to try to escape.
You
and
are.
If you get taken off in the process, then you get taken out. But you're going to try.
Yeah.
Exactly. Kiss your booty goodbye. That's funny. Anything else? Do you guys see any other questions? I don't see any other questions. And I know we've been on here a really long time. We went quite a ways over. I didn't intend to do that to all of you guys. I thank you so much for being here. Was there anything else that you guys wanted to add before we wrap this up?
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you so much
thanks for having me.
I really appreciate you guys coming on. I really do. I did want to go ahead and close with a scripture, since that is something that I like to do. So I'm going to throw this up here for you guys. Psalm 62:2. He only is my rock and my salvation. He is my defense. I shall not be greatly moved. So I just want to share that with you guys. Jesus is our rock. He is our salvation. He is our defense. And he is exactly where we need to go when we are in trouble. So I just wanted to put that out there for you guys. And I have really appreciated all of you coming on here. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much to my guests. And I will catch you guys all later. Have a great night.
Bye.